Hi everyone, my name is Dave, and welcome to Extra Credit, a video series where we take an unscripted look at topics related to local history and exploring that history. All right, so before we get into today's episode, this is just a quick reminder once again to visit my website. There's a link in the description of the video. You're going to find all kinds of content related to the topics we take a look at in this video series as well. You can follow me on social media. So I am posting quite regularly on places like Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. And again, you're going to find links to those in the description. And finally, if you haven't already done so, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. There's a lot of content that goes on here that doesn't necessarily make it to social media right away. And so by subscribing and hitting that notification button, you'll get all of the latest updates as soon as they come out. All right, so today's episode is another follow-up episode. And so we did an episode last summer about hiking and biking. And essentially in that episode, and I'll post a link in the description, so if you haven't seen that, you'll be able to take a look at that, where I basically talked a little bit about this sort of phenomenon that I call hiking and biking, which is basically me using my bike as a tool, as a vehicle to aid in my explorations, particularly the one that I'm currently involved with, which is the exploration of the old sort of Kinghorn rail line in this particular area. And so what I did in the episode is I basically talked a little bit about kind of the bike, and I talked a little bit about some of the things that I'm using the bike for, and I talked a little bit about my bike. And so this was essentially designed to be sort of a follow-up to that. And the idea is that I was going to give you kind of an idea of what these explorations actually look like. And so what I did, and I'm going to get to this very, very shortly, is essentially I recorded my outbound journey. And what I mean by that is typically when I create my YouTube videos is I'm only recording part of the journey, which is usually kind of the return journey. And what I'm doing on the outbound journey is I'm taking photographs, I'm recording GPS data, I'm kind of, exploring, sort of the landmarks, things that I'm seeing. And, if I have to drop down and take a look at it, something, a culvert, a bridge, a trestle, or something like that. And so those are things that, the logistics of all of that doesn't necessarily make it into the video. And so I have had some questions about that from people going kind of, what kind of goes on behind sort of the scenes or in the lead up to the actual episode. And so what I did just over a month ago, so this was filmed, the main part of this episode here was filmed at the beginning of June, just east of Beardmore. And so what I did was I basically had two cameras rolling. So I had one GoPro that I had mounted on a flexible mount, which is basically looking at me, and you see a little bit of that. And then the main part is basically I have the camera on my head, and I'm recording kind of that outbound journey where I'm stopping and taking pictures, where I'm going down and taking a look at things. And so you sort of see what kind of goes on, again, behind the scenes, where you don't sort of see the sort of polished, if you want to call it that, quote unquote, the polished final product. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some clips from that. But what I also did, and I'll talk a little bit about this very shortly, is I also kind of took all the entire video that I filmed. So that sort of, I think it was ended up being like 2 hours of the outbound journey. I put it all together in a video, so you can kind of watch that. And so that's going to drop tomorrow. So today you're going to see kind of the abbreviated version. You're going to kind of see all the clips, and then tomorrow you're going to see essentially the full length video. And so before we get to that, however, before I show you those clips, what I want to do is I have a little bit of an equipment change, and so I'm going to show you a little bit of my new ride, and some of the reasons why I changed my bike, and some of the features of the new bike. All right, so as promised, I wanted to show off my new ride. Nothing terribly fancy in terms of the biking world, but certainly a bit of an upgrade compared to my old bike. Now the question becomes well, why did I upgrade my bike? Well, pretty simple answer. Actually, there's two reasons. The big one actually was the fact that my younger son needed a new bike. And I figured, instead of just basically buying him a new bike, he doesn't really bike very often. The only time he really bikes is when I sort of drag him out on explorations with me. And I figured, what I'll do is I'll just maybe get a little bit of an upgraded bike for myself and let him use my old bike. But the bike that I had was only 2 years old. So, I mean, relatively, there's a bit of miles on it, but I mean, relatively, it was brand new. So in terms of this bike, it is an upgraded. So my old bike was a Giant Talon 3. This is a Giant Talon 1. Really, for the most part, there's, a lot of the components are the same. It's a 29-inch wheel. Obviously, some of the hardware on the bike is a little bit more upgraded. The biggest difference on the bike, and it's the reason why I sort of decided that I wanted to, get a new bike for myself, was the Talon 1 as opposed to the Talon 3. I got a nice ding there. Basically does not have a front derailleur, and this is kind of a common trend that's happening with a lot of mountain bikes, especially the more sort of higher end one. This is not a higher end bike. This is sort of a higher end of kind of the lower level sort of bikes, but this is a big trend, is going sort of eliminating the front derailleur and then just basically going with a larger cassette on the back. And so this is basically a 10-speed cassette. There is a model higher than this. There is a Talon 0, and I believe the big difference with the Talon 0 is that it does have a 12-speed cassette, 12-speed basically rear derailleur, as opposed to the 10-speed on this one here. But for the amount of biking I'm doing, like when I'm doing my railway explorations, I'm essentially in the same gear all the time. The railway grade is flat, and I don't really need to change gears at all. The only time I'm really changing gears, and you can basically see where all the grease is on here. You can essentially see where's basically the gear ranges that I'm kind of riding it. And when I do kind of non sort of railway related biking, I'm kind of working into the higher gears. So for the most part, it's been great. I actually ordered it last year. It was funny, I had brought in last March, so March of 2021, I had brought in our bikes to one of our local bike shops, and I'll give a shout out to Fresh Air Experience, because they've been great with me. I actually brought in the bikes in the springtime for a tune-up, and I kind of mentioned that I was looking at a new bike, and they essentially told me, with all of the shortages and everything that's going on, they said, you need to order a bike now. And I was kind of taken aback a little bit. I'm like, what do you mean I need to order my bike now? And they're like, if you want a bike for next year, you have to order it now. So I basically ordered this bike in March of 2021, and I was hoping that it would come in they basically told me it should be in March of 2022, and there was a little bit of delay with it, but I ended up getting it the first week in May, and it's been great ever since. I love riding with it. I love the lack of the front derailleur, and the big reason why I wanted to get rid of that front derailleur is I found the derailleur switch was right here, and I found that getting off and on the bike a lot, my gear, my hiking vest, my tactical vest, was snagging on the shifter. So here you can see the rear derailleur shifter was getting snagged on there, and it would inadvertently switch the gears, and then I would get on the bike and I'd go to pedal, and the chain would fall off, because basically I've sort of switched the gears when I wasn't pedaling, and I found that very annoying and very frustrating. And so it was one of the big reasons why I wanted to upgrade and sort of ditch that front derailleur. But anyway, so there's a little note on the new wheels, and so what we're going to do is we're going to get into the exploration here. All right, so we're here in Beardmore. We are just to the east of a place called Railway Drive. And so we're going to be starting our adventure here today. We actually have to bike a bit before we get to the start of our hike. The reason being is when we did this hike last year, we started further up near the location of the Northern Empire mine. You can kind of see the sun's out a little bit. There's some blue sky here. The sun's going to be in and out. There's going to be some patchy cloud today. It is not particularly warm. It is the 1st of June today, and it's chilly. We had a
a cold front passed through last night. I think around here yesterday it was like 24, 25 degrees. Today it's supposed to be like 15, 16 degrees. There's a very cold northwest wind. I should be wearing my gloves. I'm not, but I literally have long pants on, and I have 2 long sleeve shirts on. You know, I might have to take one off, but for now, it's a little chilly out. So what we're going to do is I'm going to zip ahead to where we actually have to start the hike, and then I'll check in and we'll start recording a little bit more. All right. So we're here at the location of the mine. We're actually running 2 cameras because I have my other GoPro fixed on me. So we're about ready to start our hike. Just a quick note about today. I mentioned the weather, and I've said this on previous hikes. If you watch the ones from earlier this year, we've had a really stupid, for lack of a better word, spring. Winter was really bad, and then spring was maybe worse. We had snow up until on the ground up until a month ago or less. The snow hasn't been gone for very long, and I don't know if it's because all the moisture in the ground or just because it's been kind of hot and then cold, hot and then cold. The leaves have just kind of exploded, and we're almost kind of at the same spot we were last year, but with a much shorter spring. So the leaves have already started to pop out. So literally we're right at the end of hiking season, because or the ideal hiking season, because when the leaves start to come out and the grass starts to grow up alongside the grade, it makes it very difficult to see anything. All right, so one of the things that we do a lot of on these hikes is obviously we take pictures. So as we're moving our way to the east, we take pictures and we gather GPS data. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn this camera off. And so we have something to look for right off the hop, because somewhere here, if it's still here, is supposed to be the milepost 69 marker somewhere. Whole bunch of pipes down here. I'm guessing those are part of the mining operation. There are all kinds of pipes and everything here. But I thought for a second there might be some sort of sign or something. Right, let's keep looking. So sometimes you hear me mention this on the hike. So what they would do with these, some of these signage and some of these markers, is they would yank them out of the ground, and then there it is right there. It's been cut off. So you can see what's left of the marker there. I'm assuming that might have been a popular sign. I'm not going to say why, but it is milepost 69, so some people might think that is the type of sign that they might want to steal or take. There is a telegraph pole down there. All right, so that's out of the way. So what we have to do periodically is we have to stop, and we take pictures. And there's a culvert here. See, this is what we get interrupted all the time, right? So there's this. So the outbound journey, that must have been from the mine, feeding right into the culvert. Yeah, there's no marker there. We have to stop all the time to take pictures, and then if there's something that we need to take a look at, like a culvert or a bridge or something, there's another telegraph pole down there. The ballast is not, and then we have to do data too. So now I need to back up because I was looking over here and I missed this. So I mark all of the, or at least I try to, I mark all of the cuts and the rock cuts, kind of try to get all the terrain features in. Let's say this is the start here. So this is the time consuming thing. So our outbound journeys always take us way longer, because literally on the way back all we're doing is just pedaling and filming. Yeah, there's a bunch of Dominion 42s on there. Whoops, sorry Luna. Luna has a bad habit sometimes of just stopping, and sometimes I have to be careful because I'm not paying attention, because I'm looking around and looking at things, and there'll be times where I like crash into her, which is not good. All right, so here we are again, right? So this is just this process, right? So I try to stop every once in a while and take the pictures, and then obviously if there's certain things that we need to photograph, we have to spend a little bit more time on. Okay, so we're coming up to the end of this cut. I'm bad for this. Like, I'll just get sort of engrossed. There's another telegraph pole. I'll get engrossed in what I'm doing and then forget to mark the end of stuff. So just as a note, I don't know if you can see the GPS. I don't know if I can turn my head down far enough. I kind of have a system to name things. So for example, if there's a rock cut, I wrote an R, and then I start with like 01, and then 02 would be the other side of the, rock cut. So rock cut would be R01, then the other side of the rock cut would be R02, the next rock cut would be R11, R12, right, etc. And then cuttings would be C with the same numbering system, which is part of a tie. And then things like a tie would be T, a telegraph pole would be TL, if there's sort of a significant telegraph pole that I want to point out. See, it's not bad so far. So this has got to be, there was a few spurs here at the mine site. This looks like it could be a spur. All right, so let's mark that. So I'm going to mark spur SP1. So in terms of, this is my crude marking system to remind me to stop. Sometimes I just completely miss them when I'm doing that. Just in terms of other things, so FL will be a flanger. The milepost markers, I put an M and then I put whatever the milepost is. So the last one we just passed there would have been M69. So milepost 69. There's another telegraph pole down there. It's almost sort of anticlimactic now. Last Saturday, we were hiking near east of Beardmore, near Langmuir Station, and I've never seen so many telegraph poles that are in good shape, and I've never seen so many insulators, particularly like quote-unquote rare ones. Some of the basically green is rare on this line, right? You can find 1,000,001 Dominion 42s, which are the clear ones, but to actually get a green one is pretty rare. All right, I got something coming up here. There's supposed to be a culvert here. So let's look for this culvert. Yeah, so anyway, so green ones are rare. Like, you do find some what are called Hemingway and Brookfield ones. Again, I had to learn these things. I am not a collector of telegraph pole insulators. And so those ones are a little bit more common, but there's a few other ones. Ones that are called CD 143s. Those are very rare. And then there's another one that's whatchamacallit, It's kind of like a sort of a light green Dominion 42, and those are extremely rare. All right, so we do have a culvert here. So what we do is our first process is we check the post and see if we can get a mileage. And there is no way we're getting a mileage off of that because it is just completely illegible. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go down and take a look at this. So let's mark it, because I think this is a concrete one. Yep, it's a concrete one. And this creek bed is dry here. Okay, so what I have to do is I have to pause the video here. It's wet inside. I thought we could walk through. Have to pause the video here and then talk about the culvert. All right, so we've made our way down here on the north side. The culvert looks okay from this side. The only issue is that all this debris that's sort of in the way. There's a little bit of water in the ditch here. But again, we've had a pretty wet spring. Again, you can see it looks like it's in pretty good shape. Again, just all the kind of debris that's kind of fallen down over the last bunch of years. So that's a bit of a challenge. All right, so what we're going to do is hop back up on the grade, and we'll just continue plugging our way to the west. We're almost at our destination. All right, so that's done. Let's get our way back up onto the grade. And you always get stuff like this where you're like, oh, why didn't I just come down this way? So much easier. But at the time, I didn't see this. Now my shoes are full of stuff, all full of mud. All right. So what I'm going to show you right now is one of the fun processes when I'm doing these explorations, which is a battery change. So battery changes are kind of interesting. So what I'm doing is I have two GoPros. This is my, the one that's on the helmet is my older one, my Hero 7. And then the one I'm recording this with is the Hero 9. And so with the Hero 7, it doesn't have a built-in kind of mount, so you have to use this little cage. And it's always kind of interesting trying to get it out of the cage. Sometimes when it's cold, I don't know, usually cold's not bad. It's usually when it's hot, it's bad. Everything kind of expands. Getting it out of this cage sometimes is a pain in the butt. So then I have to hook, because I don't want to get off the bike. I have to hook that on there, and then I have to unzip pouch and get the batteries out. So I have a little baggie here with all my batteries. So then what I got to do is I got to find the one with this battery in it. Pop it open. So this is battery, and I drop it, of course. Usually I don't drop it. So that's battery. I have the batteries all kind of labeled. So now what I got to do is find the next. So I try to use them in order. So this is battery number 3. And I have the same sort of system with the other camera. This tactical vest here, I tucked them in right here. So I got somewhere to hold that. Now I need to put this back in the holder. Put that in there. Slip that on my head. Put the batteries back in the pouch. Zip the pouch back up so we don't lose anything. And voila. All right, so I'm going to take you through this rock cut. You can see that it's going to be mostly on the south side of the grade. There's going to be a little few things here and there on the north side. So here you can see the grade is not particularly high. This is a fairly lengthy rock cut. Here we're probably in the 7-8 foot range. And it just continues on here. Again, we're doing this on our outbound journey because if we wait, the sun might come out and then you won't see anything and it'll be washed out. So here you can see it starts to get a little higher, maybe pushing the, maybe still probably in that 7 foot range. You can see it's a lot more defined. And here, this is not sort of, this was not flagged as kind of a problematic area, but obviously you can see that since the rails have been pulled up, we've had some very significant damage done to the grade. So although this rock is very shale-like, it's very soft, and so you can see what's happened is water has gotten in there and basically has frozen and thawed and caused the rock to basically shear off from the side of the cut, and you've had all of this mountain of rock sort of come down. And again, you can see why that's happened. It's all this very sort of soft shale rock. And we've seen that in other places. So for example, by Pass Lake, we've seen almost the same sort of scenario, almost the same sort of rock. And again, you can just see sort of that layered shale appearance of the cut. And so here the rock cut just continues. And then over here we got yet more. There's a telegraph pole down there. You can actually see the base, the pile of rocks, and the pole is kind of laying down, sort of facing the river. And then again, the cut just continues. Here it gets a little higher. So even back there where the rock fall was, they're probably over 10 feet. And here for sure we're probably in, and you can see yet more rock fall. So how it's all sort of sheared off the face of the cut. Oh, that wind is nasty when it blows. And again, it's just a long rock cut here because it just continues. And it kind of gets a little bit lower here and it's going to bounce back. Here you can see there's a tie. And another tie. And here it resumes again. And so here, a couple of things. So here you can see there's a piece of telegraph pole. And you can see a very rare thing on there. It's on there because it's broken. You can see there's a piece of a CD143 insulator. Anything green is very rare on here. And here, this post sticking out of the ground, which has been cut off, that is the Milepost 68 marker. I don't think the marker is here. Let's just have a quick look. You can see the part of the telegraph pole here. There's something in my boot that's driving me crazy. Sometimes they'll cut them off and just huck the milepost marker, but I don't see it. And so here you can see a little bit more on the north side, and again the cut just continues on the south side. And so here the rock cut begins to sort of peter out a little bit. And then it comes to an end here. Okay, so we're going to hold up here for a second, and then we're just going to resume our journey to the west.
All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that. As I mentioned, if you're kind of curious, beyond the few clips that you saw, you can basically stay tuned for the video that's dropping tomorrow. There is a link in the description, but it won't be active until tomorrow because it's not posting until tomorrow. But after tomorrow, you'll be able to take a look at it, and you'll essentially be able to, kind of follow the entire sort of outbound journey. And and again, it's not sort of edited, or not greatly edited. What I did is I just basically spliced a bunch of things together. I had to create some transitions here and there where essentially had to, change batteries, or, something had to go on. But basically, you're going to see the entire journey that you saw the little clips of. You're going to see that right from, we basically went from the site of the Northern Empire gold mine, which is just east of Geraldton, all the way to a bridge crossing over the Blackwater River. So it was like about a 4.5 mile ride or so. And again, that was kind of filmed at the beginning of June. And so the foliage and the geography looks a little bit different than it would at this time of the year. But again, just sort of gives you a sense of, kind of what sort of goes on in these hikes. All right, so hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. Hopefully, it kind of gives you again a little bit of sense of what goes on during my explorations. And so, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be back next month with yet another episode, and hopefully you're excited to see that one. And in the meantime, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.